Hey, it's Ember, and this one may be slightly difficult. There's just a lot of emotions here, and kind of hits the core of something, but I realize that something needs to be said. I'm sure that plenty of trans people go through something similar, and obviously we're in a stage now where, because of the climate and ideological climate now, I'm sure there's lots of people who are going through something similar. Um, if you're out at a park, a national park or something like that, and a ranger comes up to you and says, hey, put your fire out. Um, Part of the reason that they need to do that so ubiquitously is almost like, the idea of like Immanuel Kant's categorical imperative. If everyone did that same thing, you probably have a forest fire, because who knows when there's a hot ember that's still waiting there under the ashes, ready to reignite. And really, so my message is, only you can know the heat of your own fire. And I guess I want to juxtapose that self-knowledge, the knowledge of that flame, with an external dismissal, and how those external dismissals usually occur, or at least in my experience and what I've seen from other trans creators, and um, that type of thing. It involves a certain element that I think there's a commonality here. And so if you're trans, you've probably had some version of this, I would suggest, at least from what I've seen. It's very common. And you might get comments from people around you like, you're just anxious, or you're trying to control people, or you're being selfish, for example. That's a big one. You're being selfish. How could you do this to your family, that you're being so selfish? And that this is trauma, not your identity. Another very, very common one. In other words, you're broken. And then if we think about that, it creates this sort of prison. Now, it's true that no one can control you, but when you're someone who's never known your true identity and is sort of sitting on a quicksand of self, and you're fighting against this feeling. I had this feeling one time sitting around some of the people that were most dear to me, and it suddenly hit me all of a sudden. There's this part of me that I'm too scared and shameful to bring out, at least at the time I was. And especially around the people that were closest to me. And it was almost like I was left in this psychological prison where the key was in my hand, or the door was open, and I never realized it, because they were the jailers and they kept looking at me like I was actually in. And anytime I tried to open up or say something vulnerable to my identity, I was told I was too anxious, I was too much, and that it was just my trauma, and that's something that I need to deal with on my own, rather than asking for acknowledgement of my identity. And so I guess it's not that they don't see someone like me, or someone like us if you're trans. It's that often they just refuse to look. And I think that many people who go through this know that moment, that whether it's someone on the street, or someone in the media, or someone in your own family, or the people that you know closest to you, there's this feeling that of being actively erased sometimes, that it's almost easier for them to completely erase your identity using whatever bit of dismissal, deflection, denial, and some sort of injustice against your most precious personal identity, that is easier for them to do than to dig down and acknowledge the truth of the matter, or actually listen to you and change the way that they've got this lens on you. And I would suggest that often, again, this is not just a misunderstanding, it's like an active refusal to actually open that mind or open that heart. And that's why when I've spoken to a lot of trans people, sometimes when I hear their story, trans or queer, LGBTQ people, I often, when I'm listening to the story, even if it's really sad, I hear like, wait, so it almost seems like the cosmos, or if you say it that way, God placed you in a circumstance to basically like open up the hearts of those around you, because merely by being yourself, a task that you are already inclined to, you are placing people in positions where they have to reconsider their notions of relationship and reality. And sure, they can leave you alone, they can abandon you, But for example, in situations where there's links, like for example, children or something like that, there will always be a link to what happened there. And one day, whether it's several Christmases later or whatever, they're going to realize, now we're having holidays again with you. And like a friend told me, this person, they wanted to take me off the health insurance. This person, they wanted to remove all pictures of me. And now what do they think? You know, like you're the same person, if not better, because you've really stood into yourself or stepped into yourself. And they've had to, by the test of time, just come around to feeling you as a human being again, when they wanted to deny your humanity completely. And that is something that I think, opens up their eyes or their hearts, or at least bids them to. You can only take the horse to water, I guess, and so I guess one insidious part here is that when I reached out in these moments, it was like, can you see me? And sometimes I got, oh, what is that woke language? Like, can you see me? And I'm like, I don't, because for me, it's vulnerable. For me, it's authentic and it's genuine and it's pouring right out of my heart, and I'm looking at him in the eyes and I'm suggesting, can we hold hands? Can I sit closer to you to show you like where I'm trying to come from? And to like get a denial again and again and again. Obviously, I needed some wising up myself, obviously, but part of that was being stuck in what it was basically relational dysphoria, or being pulled in and saying, maybe I am being too much. Maybe I am being too anxious. Maybe, they're right that I need to like put this aside for a moment. And that can keep you in years of dysphoria, in years of never being able to touch your own heart. So again, only you can feel your own fire. And so you can say that, like, on one hand, it's like the glasses that I'm seeing through again is that, please see me. This is my most precious part. This is my most genuine part. And in their eyes, they're saying, you're being so needy and selfish and so anxious. There must be something traumatically wrong with you. So you need to go to a professional. You don't need acknowledgement. We actually are going to alienate you and segment you until you can be fixed. And what they're saying is, I refuse to see you. I refuse to open my heart to this, no matter how much you communicate. And I don't wish any of this upon anyone, because it was an arduous battle that I never want to step into again. And it's taught me so much about boundaries, about relationships, about people, about depth, about emotional unavailability, emotional avoidance. But still, I'm here to espouse these lessons to you, so hopefully you guys never have to go through that. And a lot of the feeling was erasing my humanity, making me feel like totally less than human. Because nothing I ever said could be acknowledged like that. And there's an event that just happened to me that to me is like just such an indicator sort of all this. And I mean, really for years I begged to be seen, and I tied myself into knots trying to make others comfortable, and then trying to make this easy for people. Don't want to talk now? Okay, we can talk next Tuesday. Can we talk for 5 minutes? Can we talk for 3 minutes? And eventually every single thing was denied. And then one day, now recently, actually today, I'll just say it like it just literally happened to me. I don't even want to say who, but someone that for a long, long time was very dear to me, by a function of my transition and me asking everybody around me to call me by my name and not dead name me, I was playing with my kids and she told me my name. And for one moment, it was like the gates of heaven opened for just one split second, like 0.25 seconds. And what I want to point out is that I had one of those inadvertent minds. I was doing something and then I heard it and I was like, oh, like it was like a moment of extreme gender euphoria. And then it came crashing down because I realized it was just a gesture to keep the peace and keep me in a way like moving in a direction that was eventually gonna, make it so I don't need to be around this group anymore. and even in that strangeness, I saw it all. It was like a starving person being given a crumb, you know? It was like I realized, oh my gosh, like this is so good. This is what I've been looking for. But then I realized there was just so much hunger. And I'm so, so grateful to be brave enough to have taken this step, because I would have never felt it for myself. And that brings it back. You can only feel your own fire. And so I'm here to say the issue was never you, those who are involved in these type of situations. The issue was never you. They could have probably seen you whenever they wanted to. And so stop running on that hamster wheel. You don't need to spend any more time around anyone who will not give you that presence of heart and presence of soul when you look at them with the most precious part of you and ask to be seen. It felt like I was asking to play, soul chess in the way that I was like, I think that you guys are looking at it this way, but listen, this is I made songs, I made poems, I drew cartoons, I made charts. I mean, like, I went way above and beyond, and I don't wish that upon anybody. And I thought I was playing this soul chess, and they kept telling me, no, this is checkers. And so it reminds me of being trapped at like a surface level type thinking, where of course they have their doors shut, they're looking at you through the peephole, and they refuse to open it up to see you, to smell you, to touch you, to feel you. And if you're trans and you're being told that you're going through something, or that you're broken, or like I was told, I was, need to go to a professional, do this and that. I did. You know what? I did. And you know what they signed off on? Everything that I'm doing right now, in the way that I've become stronger than ever. And now, in this funny way, I've been left alone, and now I'm stronger than ever. And that's just how the cosmic game goes. But I'm here to make it maybe a little easier for everybody else. And also, just by telling my story, make this experience a bit more real. And so only you can tell your own fire, and when you feel it for yourself, when you know the heat, that will dismantle all this dismissiveness, because you'll realize maybe they've never felt that heat. Maybe they've never felt that within themselves, and they probably have never felt that heat from you, not in the way that you feel it. And that gives you every answer that you need, And so it wasn't that my existence was really ever in question. It was that the door was always closed, and they kept looking through the peephole. I just, if the ranger tells you, to turn off that fire, only you know what sits underneath those ashes. If they ask you to douse it, you know the embers that sit beneath, that are still ready to reignite. And life's too precious and too short to not be ready to conflagrate. Untamed, wild, radical, individualistic self, gripping every moment of life, and sucking on the saturation of each precious, juicy experience in a way that you can be truly proud of when you give your last breath, when you teach your children how to love. I really appreciate you guys being here and listening to this. Sorry, this was a bit more of an emotional one. I know it's getting dark, but I really wanted to do this. So kind of have a dark vibe today. I'll joke that I've always wanted to wear these necklaces. I've always wanted to wear this, and I never could. I'm like, oh, couldn't do it before. That's a girl's thing. Couldn't do it. And now here I am. So thanks for being here with me. I'm Amber, and till next time.